Hello gang, check out this cool awl I made on the lathe. First time using a scroll chuck as well. I've managed to gain around 10 hours turning experience on the lathe, and I'm starting to think that I know what's going on in the wood turning world. I know what all the buttons do on the lathe, I'm comfortable turning blanks in between centres, and even the carbide tools do what I want them to do. Most of the time. There's only one problem. I'm sick of sanding all these rods. This here is a scroll chuck that I picked up from TimberCon, and it's pretty much key if you want to make any sort of bowl or vase or any sort of non-phallic shape on the lathe. And this chuck has been sitting on a box in my workshop for over 3 weeks now, waiting for me to get the courage up to use it. So why haven't I opened the chuck up and started using it yet? Well, I'm new to wood turning. I've never used a chuck before. It's kind of big and bulky and heavy. It's not crazy expensive, but it's also not cheap. I really don't want to break it. So basically, it's something that I'm just not familiar with. But if I'm slightly intimidated by this, I guess it means that there's probably other inexperienced wood turners out there who also are. So I figured what I'll do is I'll take one for the team and I'll open it up today and try and figure it all out. The chuck and my Sherwood lathe have different screw threads on them, so I can't connect them directly. To make the chuck fit, I have to use a coupler. This part is sold separately as they come in different size combinations. If you're looking at buying one of these chucks as well, you may also need one of these insert threads. I'd recommend just going straight to TimberCon and speaking to the guys there. They'll be able to point you in the right direction, saving you some time and effort. Now to fit the chuck, I'm inserting the coupling, then I'll screw the whole assembly onto the lathe. Now on this scroll chuck at least, there's no set screw or any other locking mechanism to keep the chuck actually attached to the lathe, so I recommend that you don't run it in reverse. I'll let you figure out why not. Alrighty, there's nothing for it but to do it. Wood goes in here, tool goes in here, and then you twist it around to tighten it up. To get the wood running true, I'll bring the tailstock over and line up the center point, and then I'll tighten down the jaws further, just to be safe. If there's a better method than that to center the blank, yell out, let me know in the comments down below. So turning a piece of wood this way feels kind of the same as turning between center points. The blank is nice and secure on both sides, so really there's no difference. Except of course that the chuck is massive and I'm kind of terrified that I might clip it with the tool, so I'd be sure to stay well away from that end. Once you back off the tailstock though, things do start to feel a little bit different. The first thing I noticed is that I can't put anywhere near as much pressure on the workpiece when I'm cutting, or I feel that I'm just going to knock it completely out of the jaws. I can't cut the end very easily either because the center turns so slow. Basically, I just feel I have to be extra careful with every cut and make all my moves slower, more deliberate, and much lighter than I would normally. After some practice pieces though, I have enough confidence up that I feel I can turn my Merbo and Messmate blank into an awl. So here we go. The first thing I need to do is true it up, just like normal. As it's between the chuck and the live center at this point, there's no real issue here. It's pretty much business as usual. Eventually though, I know that I'm going to have to turn this piece around in the chuck, so I start cutting a tenon on one end and then roughly shaping the awl on the other end. The tenon I'm making is going to hold a brass ferrule, and it's nothing special, just a 10mm brass nut that I got from the plumbing department. I drilled a hole through the center of it by stepping up through some bit sizes. I go very slow here and I check the fit multiple times using calipers. Now I can jam the brass fitting onto the tenon and start filing it round. As this is brass, I imagine that I can probably, possibly, carefully, maybe turn it round using the carbide tools, but I'm not going to test that out just yet. It only takes a few minutes to file it smooth anyway. When I'm happy, I flip it on end and chuck it up again. I did wrap some tape around the brass to help protect it from the metal jaws, but as you can see, it doesn't work all that well. After about a minute of this, I took off the tape and instead I wrapped it in a little piece of paper towel. That worked a million times better and I didn't have any more slip-ups. So now that it was chucked up this way, I could start working on the butt end of the awl. While I did get my confidence up and managed to use the tools close to the jaws, I couldn't get all the way into the base of the tendon. So to smooth that area out, I ended up chucking the awl in my drill press and then I safely sanded it through there. For the pointy part of the awl, I decided to use a drill bit. I really like the effect that the spirals give it. I know I've said it before, but starting and finishing a project on the lathe is so fulfilling, especially when it's a project that's going to help you make future projects. I'll be using this a lot. Now, if you need a little bit of a reminder as to why practice is so important, here's my very first awl. Being the first one I ever made, I am actually still a little bit proud of it. But when you put the newer one next to it, you can really see what a little bit of practice does. Look, this may not be the most attractive awl in the world, but I'm very happy with it. Now guys, I'm inching closer and closer to making my first bowl on the lathe. That's what this is all about. So make sure you subscribe to both TimberCons and my own channel so you don't miss a beat.